Okay, today we're going to be looking at converting a character from local to world space. So, first of all, what we have here, I'm just going to turn this on and turn the polygons on, is we have two characters walking. And if we look at these two characters, Monty and the Heavy, we can see that these are walking in what is known, they actually walk straight off this ledge, what is known as local space. And by that I mean that if you look at the controls, the kind of master controls of both of these characters are moving along with the characters. It's a bit like the character is actually walking on the spot on an invisible walking machine, or what do you call those things you have in gyms? Anyway, I've forgotten. But yeah, one of those, a treadmill. Yeah, so an invisible treadmill. They're actually walking on an invisible treadmill. Now, I'm going to show you there is a good reason for converting this to what is called the character walking in global space, which will mean that what happens is, as opposed to this control moving forward, the controls that move forward would be the ones that you would expect to actually move forward in reality, which are the waist control, which controls the entire upper part of the character's body, and the feet control, which of course pulls the rest of the character forward. So this is what you expect to happen, but the way that I do walk cycles, and many people do them, is you have the start with the character walking on the spot. Now there are reasons, of course, for doing the walk cycle this way. Firstly, in my opinion, it is definitely the easiest way to get a result quickly, and also because if you animate the character this way, you can then go on to put your character on a path. And then when you put the character on the path, you do a similar procedure in order to convert the character from local to global space. So why bother doing this? Okay, so I'm going to turn Heavy off. We're just going to look at Monty. Like, imagine we're in the situation and we want to animate Monty falling off this ledge. He just wanders off the ledge. So how would we go about doing this? Well, first thing you'd do is you'd bake out the animation of Monty until he's about to go off the ledge. So let's say we'd bake it out to, say, frame 107. Okay, so I'll just do that first. So to bake out Monty's animation, all I have to do is I'm just going to select the animated bits and pieces. So his legs, this control, this, and this. And I should say I'm also going to bake out this control. So all the controls that are moving, so the master, the feet control, everything that's animated, I'm going to bake it out to frame 107. So I'm just going to go edit, keys, bake simulation, and then I'm going to bake start to end from, say, frame, I think this actually starts at frame 0. I normally start at frame 1, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll start it as frame 0 to 107. Yeah? And I'm going to sample by 2s. Now what that means, it means it will bake every second frame. Because it's a walk, I think it's okay to sample by 2s. I wouldn't do this on a run because you have less frames. The problem is the higher number you sample by, it means you get less keyframes, but it also means that you may have a less accurate approximation of your actual animation if you have this number too high. I think on a walk 2 should be okay, but on a run I would normally sample by 1s. So anyway, I'm going to bake this out on 2, see what it looks like, frame 107, and you'll see it just runs like that. And of course now Monty is baked out. There doesn't seem to be any foot. Sometimes you get a bit foot sliding if you bake out in 2s, but there doesn't seem to be any. And then, he goes up to this point here. Now you can notice there's still animation afterwards, and that is because my animation is still looping, even though I baked out to frame 107, because the cycle is still cycling. It means that Monty's carrying on to walk. So what I do here, with all those keys selected, the controller selected, sorry, is I will go in and first make this constant. So pre-infinity constant, you get a straight line there, curves post-infinity constant, okay? So now Monty stops to move when he gets here. Okay, 105. Right, now, so imagine I want to make him fall in this instance. Well, what would I do? Well, I guess a lot of people, when they come to do this and they're fresh to animate this, they think, well, I'll use this control because this is the one that's been propelling him forward so far. So let's just carry on with this. So I'm just going to knock this out roughly. So let's say we go from there. Maybe you're going to pull him over like this, or move him forward up a bit. I don't want him going any faster, so I'll have him going roughly the same speed. I'm going to match up the speed on the Z. So he's go, whoa. And I think you can already see there are some, maybe I'm going to move him a little bit forward this way and a bit down. And drop that down a bit. Now, of course, if you do it this way, you have problems because you're thinking, okay, but your leg is going to be in the wrong position, so I've got him here. And this leg, of course, if he's falling over, I would want this leg to stay put. I wouldn't want the leg to, this one here, to be moving forward. So I'd have this problem where he's moving forward and I'm having to pull the leg back. Oops, because, you know, I want the leg to be staying in the same position. Now, there are ways you can get the leg to stay in the same position, but it's going to be a little bit complicated. And, you know, his whole body's moving together, which is very unrealistic as opposed to this. It's not the way you actually fall. So in order to get this, so I'd probably bring in a box if I was to do it this way. I'd put a box in front of his foot and have to reposition the foot each time so it wasn't slipping forward. I would do what's known in the trade as counter animating, which is when you have animation from one control that is affecting other controls that you're having to animate against the animation that's being produced by this control. Now, this is something that is best to do only when it's very necessary. If you can avoid it, try not to counter animate. It's something that is best avoided unless it is very simple. I mean, there is a video I've got of how to make a character slow down and stop using this control and using boxes. And I guess that's relatively straightforward, but this will be very complex. So okay, so if this is not what we do, and not only that, let's think the center of the pivot point of this is right in the middle, which means if I spin this around, if I'm making him fall down, the pivot point's in the wrong place. The center of gravity of this character is in the middle of his body or his waist. This is where the center of gravity is. It's not here, so that's in the wrong place. So let's just say, so I wouldn't do this. This would not work. So I'm just going to get it back to where I was. So what's another thing I could do? Well, another thing I could do, which might seem like a solution to this, is I could use this control. So I could have him slip forward this way, and I could have him going forward, you know, like he's tripping over. The feet at least are not all moving forward, going downwards, you know, whatever, you know, so, whoa. Now, the problem with doing it this way, if I'm switching controls for the forward motion, one is to try and get the speed correct. Okay, there are ways that I can do this by going into my, I can go into my ghosting tool, and I could try and ghost some of the frames before him. So I could go in and ghost frames, say 103, for example, and have a look and see if I can match up. He's going too quickly there, so I'd kind of pull this back a bit, and etc., etc. And you know, I'm trying to almost eyeball it, so that the forward is not too. And again, there are problems with doing it this way, and part of the problem is this: in animation, you genuinely want to use the same controls for the same actions, because here, basically, this this control has not been used for the forward motion of his body at all, because prior to that it was the control on the ground. And if you were to hand this over to another animator, if you're working in industry, what would happen is they might think, well, hang on, what's this guy been, or what's this person been doing? How have they got the animation moving? Well, it's moving forward. Oh, they're using this control here, and then they're switching to this one. So you want your curves to make sense. So this also isn't a good solution, and it again, can be time consuming. So what is a solution to this? And this is where we're going to come on to. I'm just going to undo all this stuff. We're going to talk about, I'll just get this back to where it was. We're going to talk about converting from global to world space. Okay, so I'm just going to explain a little bit. And in order to do it, I'm going to make Monty invisible and bring in my ball. And I've got this very simple kind of setup. So I've got a ball and I've got a control underneath it. So essentially, presently these aren't in any kind of hierarchy. Maya works in hierarchies. I can move this and the ball isn't going to move. Yeah. But I can put them into hierarchy. So I can parent the ball to the NURBS circle. And in order to do that, I just press on the NURBS circle and then press on the I press on the sphere first, then the NURBS circle, and then I press P. And by doing that, the sphere is now underneath the NURBS circle. So now if I move the NURBS circle, the sphere comes along. So it is like the sphere now is the child of the circle. So if I was to move the circle along this way, I'll just move it a bit like this, the sphere will move along with it. Okay. Now the good thing, because I parent this, I can actually animate the sphere itself. I could just animate the sphere inside the circle. So for example, if I can key it here, I could go to frame 35, I'll make it go up, and then I'm going to cut and paste this, copy, let's say frame 80, and I'll paste that so it goes up and down. So you got this motion, yeah, like a wave, yeah. What? No, not like a wave, more like a hill. So you've got this action. Now, here's the interesting thing. The ball is only actually going up and down. If I mute the forward translations of this, so that they're not, so you can't see them. But you can mute animation if you want to turn off animation. Not actually turn it, but essentially it's like turning the volume down. So turn it down so you can't see it, but it's still there. You can right click and go mute selected. So I'm going to mute. I've muted the animation on this control. So you can see now that the ball is really just going like this. Yeah, that's all the ball. As far as the ball is concerned, that's what it's doing. But in relation to what it's doing, if I go to the, for some reason I don't know what's going on there, but if I click on this and unmute the unmute selected, look at, but because it is parented to this control, which is traveling across, in reality what the ball is doing is it's actually making a kind of curve. It's rather like jumping up and down the caravan, you know. If you inside the caravan, you may just think you're jumping up and down, but if your caravan is attached to a car that is moving, you're actually traveling in arcs as opposed to just going up and down. Now you might think, well, why am I talking about all this stuff and why is it important? Well, you can. I want to show you just with this very basic model how you can take this parented kind of animation and you can adapt it so that you can get the ball to make this arc without having, even though it's parented, it's still in this hierarchy, it's still beneath the NURBS circle. You can have it make this arcing movement without this NURBS curve moving, and I'll show you how to do this very simply. And then I'll show you why this can be effective in terms of walk cycles when you have more complex hierarchies with animated characters. So in order to convert this ball, I'm just going to bring in a locator, And what I'm going to do is the locators are these like invisible points that you can animate and do things with. I mean, they're invisible as in they're visible in your windows, but they're not renderable. So I'm going to bring the locator in, and I'm going to constrain it. That is, attach it to the middle of this ball. So I select the ball, and then I'm going to control select the locator, and then I'm going to go constrain, and I'm going to go into this option box here, constrain it. I'm parent constrain it. Now, what a parent constraint means is it means it will constrain its translations, but also its rotations to this object. So it will stick it to this object. Yeah. Now, if I press maintain offset, what that does is it will stick it to this object at whatever point it's created, which is not what I want. Which means if it comes, actually, I'll show you what it does. I'm going to apply this first without maintaining offset, so you can see. So I'll just make sure the locator is visible. Show locators. I may have to make this in wireframe so you can see it. You see the locator in the middle? It looks like a kind of a little green cross. I'm just going to break these connections so I can show you what it looks like. This is constrained with maintain offset ticked on. If I press apply now, oops, sorry. So I can constrain it again. Apply, just to constrain it. Now look what happens. You see it will move, but it will stay at the same point. Yeah? Okay, which is not what I want. Okay. That's rather strange. I thought this was animating up and down. Anyway. Have I lost something? 1 second. Anyway, I may have to reanimate my sphere. I seem to have lost the animation on it for some reason. I might have deleted it by accident. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Back again. Did I delete it? Anyway, so I'll reanimate it again. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go in and reanimate this sphere. So there, and then he's going up and down again. Okay, so right. So we've got this. Oh. One more time. Oh. So I'm going to pull this up. And then down. And I'll pull this down. And copy this. Okay, that's better. I don't know why I was doing that. Anyway, and now I'm going to constrain this to the middle of this. So I've got my circle. I'll shift select my locator, and I'm going to go constrain parent and make sure maintain offset is off, and apply that. And you'll see now that the little green cross goes up and down with the circle. Yeah. Okay, so if I want to get the actual animation of this movement onto the locator, onto this little cross, I can bake it out. So I'm going to bake out frames 1 to 80. That's just what I want. I'm going to bake it out. So I'm going to select my locator. Remember, my locator is not actually in this hierarchy. It's just stuck to the inside of this sphere. I'm just going to bake it out so that it puts the animation actually onto the locator. So what I do then is I will go to edit keys. I'm going to bake simulation. I'm only bake this for 80 frames. So I'm going to go 1 to 80 and I'll bake that. Now all of a sudden you can see it's got animation on it. So my locator, these parent constraints that it has, and I can delete them. It should only have one. I think I must have forgotten to take the other one off. So I can delete these constraints because my little locator now has, if I make these invisible, you can just see the locator by itself. It now has the same motion that the ball has. Yeah. Now what I can do next is I'm going to do something rather interesting. I am going to go to my NURBS, my my ball control, and I'm going to delete the animation, the forward animation on the ball control. I can do that just by highlighting these channels. I mean, I can delete it in here if I want. I can go like this and just delete it, or I'll show you with the ball. Another way you can delete animation is to go into the actual channels, right click and go break connections, and that has the same effect. So now look, there is no animation on this. But what it is because I've transferred the animation onto the locator, I can now transfer it back onto the ball, but without this moving. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the locator, and then I'm going to control select my sphere in this, and I'm going to constrain now the sphere that is in this group to the locator. So I'll constrain parent, so I'm constraining the other way around, and the channels will go blue. And now my sphere is moving, but without this control. And now all I need to do is simply select the sphere and bake out 80 frames. So edit, keys, bake simulation, 80, bake. Yeah? And now I have the motion on the sphere, and I can delete my locator. The sphere is doing this. So it's doing exactly the same action it was doing before, but without any input from this. And I can move this. I can move this to different places. Will make any difference? Yeah. Yeah. This then just becomes a placement control. I have the animation on the sphere. Okay. So this can be quite good. So I'll show you why. I will show you first on Monty the advantages of doing this. So in the case of the simple rig that I made with just a sphere and a circle, obviously, the Monty's a little bit more complicated, but not that much more complicated. What are the moving parts of Monty that you want to transfer this forward motion onto? Well, they are the waist control and the feet. These are the bits that move forward. These are the bits that you're expecting to move forward. These and this. Everything else is, the top half of the body is completely controlled by the waist, and the feet control, the legs and everything else. So these are the only two things that you need to worry about. So, well, we have in essence three forward moving things, parts that we want the motion from this control, the master control, to be transferred onto. So as opposed to one locator, I'm going to create three locators. I just go create locator, and then I can press Control D to duplicate them. And the first one I'm going to call the pelvis locator. This one I'll call right foot, and this one I will call left foot. Okay, so doing the same thing that we did before, I'm going to select the pelvis locator first, and then control select the pelvis. Select the pelvis control, and then control select the pelvis locator, and go constrain parent, making sure that maintain offset is off. Apply, and that locator will be in the center of Monty's body. Then I'm going to select the right foot control, then the right foot locator, constrain parent, and this is now snapped onto the center point of this control, which is at the heel. And then I'm going to select this control, left foot, control select the left foot constrainer, constrain parent, and we've got the same thing again. Okay, now sorry again, one thing to do is try not to start your animations on 0. As I've said, this is not I always try and start it on 1, but when I loaded up these models for the tutorial, I wasn't really looking at the timeline. So just it's always good practice to start 1. So you've got the locators in place. They're all kind of stuck onto those parts of the rig. So now you do the same thing. In case of Monty, we want him to walk to this frame here, say 105. So all I do is I select the locators, and I will go to my my edit keys, bake simulation, and I'm going to bake it on ones because in the first instance I'm going to bake on ones because I feel that I always want the animation to be identical. We're going to do multiple bakes here. So the good thing about baking, the first animations, if you're going to do multiple bakes, bake on ones, because then it means if there are tiny differences, you're not going to increase those by continually baking on lower numbers. So initially, for the first bake with these locators, I'm baking on ones, and I'm going to bake to frame 105 again, and I'll just bake out. So there you have it. The locator's been baked out to frames 105, and then all I have to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did on the little ball control. I'm going to go into my waist control, and I'm going to delete the translate and rotate animation. And the easiest way to do that is just select the channels, or you can just you can go like that and press delete. But I like selecting the channels and just going, oops, he says, break connections, and away it goes. And then I'm going to go into the right foot. Now, here's an important point. In some of the controls, you're only trying to get rid of the translate and rotate animation, not any of the other stuff, because that is all that is transferred onto locators. They don't have, if you have extra attributes like toe rolls or other things, just leave them on because you don't want to delete those. So again, I'm just going to select these in this, leave the toe roll, ball roll, just translate and rotate, break connections. And in this foot, oops, same thing, break connections, yeah? Leave everything else, leave all the other animation. If I was to show what this looks like now, it would look very strange, yeah? Oops, you have deleted all, yeah? Now, what I need to do now is to reconstrain these controls back to the locators. So, first of all, I'm going to take the pelvis locator, and then I'm going to shift select the pelvis in this view, the pelvis control, and go constrain parent. So I'm constraining it back. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to select the right foot locator. Then I'm going to shift select the right foot control and go constrain parent. And then I am going to select the left foot locator and shift select the left foot control and go constrain parent. And now what will happen is, oh, and finally I almost forgot, I don't want this control to move anymore. It shouldn't be moving, so I'm going to delete all the animation off the master control so it's not moving forward. I'm just going to break all the connections on these. So what happens now is Monty moves just as he was moving before, but he is moving away from the control, yeah? He's being controlled by the locators. Now, this